Oh, I don't have sound from you. There we go. That would be a thing.
Drink, muted, so I'll drink.
There we
Uh,
go.
yes, my Earl Grey. I'm channeling my inner British guy.
Excellent. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yes.
We're doing an origin session today, which means kind of a one-on-one session. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we're going to be learning about Gavin and where, well, I guess like his adventures just before the events of our session today. So, Tallsquall, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and who Gavin Fjordhammer is?
So I'm Jay Tallsquall. I am down in Florida, and actually just been hanging out with Will and the gang here on Encounter Roleplay for a little while. Rediscovered Dungeons and Dragons. Gosh, probably only about 6 months ago from watching Critical Role, like everyone else does,
Mm.
and but used to play second edition way back. In the Wayback Machine, like in '92. I remember when it came out. Yeah, I'm the old guy. Uh, I have dice. Yes, I have dice older than you. Um, and
Dear God.
and so really, really liking that they made 5e so accessible to get back into and to play, and then
Yeah.
with Roll20 and everything else that's out there, it's been sort of a rediscovery of things. So that's about me. As
Yeah.
far as Gavin goes, it's interesting. Gavin was a creation that came about as I discovered Critical Role. And I have a good friend who owns a gaming pub here in Orlando, Cloak and Blaster. If you're in town, it is amazing. It is like it is a huge craft beer tavern set up for gaming. Um, you go in there and can spread out on big giant tables
Mm.
that they've built specifically for gaming, for whether you're doing card gaming, like Magic or those types of things,
Mm.
or we play our D&D, my in real life game there on Saturdays when it's hotter than hell in the summertime in Orlando. Oh darn, we sit there and there's 25 different beers on tap and meads and another 100 different beers in bottles.
Sounds like a good time.
It is a great time. But I found Critical Role, but I was asking if he knew of anyone who had a campaign, and he didn't at the time. He said, "Well, go ahead and just write up a backstory for a character, and if you want to come in, we'll roll it up and that type of stuff." And so I wrote up Gavin, and it was one of those things. I hadn't done creative writing since probably all the way back in like '92, because I went away from liberal arts and then got into engineering. And so it was just this whole thing came flooding out, this giant backstory, which also actually prompted me for creating the world that the campaign that I'm building right now is going to be in, because it's one of those, sort of when the floodgates open, you just can't stop.
You can't stop him. Yeah.
So, I hadn't played Gavin. I had always played sort of other characters in my real life games. Got invited by Will for a one shot with a hanging tree, and it's literally what was in my back pocket.
Yeah.
So I put it in Roll20, and now we have Gavin off, on his adventures with
Yeah.
the Samurai Sigil.
Yeah. So he's a paladin of Saint Cuthbert, correct?
Yes, he is a paladin of St. Cuthbert.
Mm.
In the hanging tree, he actually had his hand chopped off and replaced with a necrotic, sort of mummified skeletal hand that he has full use of, but it sort of channels the Raven Queen. So after those adventures there sort of resolved themselves, was doing some other stuff with Will, and so we came up with how to deal with the necrotic hand, and so I think that's what we're going to explore today.
Yeah.
As he's spent some time with the clerics of the Raven Queen, and how he's finding balance between St. Cuthbert, who is his patron deity, and the Raven Queen, who he's able to sort of channel through this stuff, through this mummified hand. As far as how he looks, I know last time people had asked, so I'm going to here's a link. There's just some artwork that I went in and did some Photoshop work on to make him look more like what I've seen Gavin look like. He's sort of big, big human guy. He's been a blacksmith his whole life. He found adventure sort of later in life, but he worked in a town called Volgenholm, which Will said I could go ahead and throw a transplant over into here.
Yeah,
with
of course.
And one of those northern villages with all these big draft horses and stuff. So his whole life was done sort of working around these huge draft horses in this sort of fertile valley, but that is plagued with rock falls of giant granite rock falls. So they're constantly having to move all these giant rocks and boulders around. And actually, since this is all about today, I figured I'd go ahead and put this on my iDrive as well. That is the link for my backstory.
Oh, I think we might need to check that link. It looks like it didn't quite come through. Maybe there's like a...
Let's see what happened here.
Yeah.
Which one? Either one of them?
I think the second one looks like it didn't. Yeah, it just doesn't quite go through.
Let's try that again.
Don't find many scrawny blacksmith. That is true. That is true, redundant. So yeah, we've got Gavin, big decked out guy with history of blacksmithing, a love for St. Cuthbert, but at the same time a skeletal necrotic hand which contradicts basically every one of St. Cuthbert's tenants, being a very good guy. St. Cuthbert, as his followers are also supposed to be as well. So we're going to be going back, I'd say about like 6 months in time from where you saw the last episode of the Samurai Sigil. And this is after the Hanging Tree and in between episode 1 of the Samurai Sigil, where Gavin is learning to understand the powers of his skeletal hand. So before we dive in to the adventure today, there's a few ways that you guys get to interact with our show. And so first one of those, if you are new to the show, hit that follow button and join us. We've already hit 20 followers today, which means that you guys are going to get a viewer decision coming along pretty damn quickly here, which means that you guys get to throw your ideas into the chat as to something which could happen in our game and affect our game. We put the ideas into a straw poll, and the most popular decision will happen. So go ahead and follow if you haven't already. Also, there is a tweet. When a tweet hits 20 retweets, same thing happens. Also, 2 subscribers. If you want to burn $5 tonight, then you can do so on Encounter Roleplay to support the channel and all that we get up to here today. 5 days a week, 10 shows a week of D&D, and a 24-hour D&D stream every single month on Saturday. Last Saturday we just had it. So other than that, you can donate to affect the game. You can give players nat 1s, nat 20s, wild magic surges, and the like. So yeah, chat interaction is a big part of it. We call Encounter Roleplay the interactive D&D stream, so it's all about you guys getting involved and having fun with us. So yeah, we're 6 months in the past. This is just after Gavin's hand has been cut off and replaced by a hag. We're set in a world which is basically in a Far East fantasy setting, and so Gavin immediately after this kind of set out to learn more about his hands, his hand rather, not both of them, and how he could control his power, how it would affect his kind of bond with St. Cuthbert. And so he set out on the road known as the Long March. And thank you to Gurisu Nevermore for following. Welcome to the adventure, my friends. You're a gentleman and a scholar. So there is a very ancient and treacherous road known as the Long March, which is said to lead to the Raven Queen. To walk the road is near suicidal, with few ever returning from the march. And if they do reach their destination, no one's ever really known, but it is kind of fabled to be the road down to the Raven Queen. So Gavin decided to kind of set off here because he seemed like it's probably the only way to get in contact with some clerics of the Raven Queen and some priests, and maybe even meet the lady herself in question. So we're going to actually bring in our viewer decision here, because you're walking along this basically ashen-trod road, and it's been weeks of travel, hard travel, very few stops for kind of water and stuff. There's no kind of towns along the way to get provisions. You've had to scrounge and scavenge the local area of what is around. You're kind of walking through a It's kind of like Mordor at this point, honestly, in terms of like the ash going around. There's less volcanoes and kind of explosions, but it's basically just like a dead land which you're going through with very little to live off of. So I want you guys in the chat for your viewer decision. I will call you Nevermore to decide on something which could happen along the road, along the long march. So underneath that line in the chat, if you could throw out some ideas as to what could happen next, and we'll see what happens to Gavin here. Could be that there's a I don't know, an unholy skeletal army walking by. It could be that simply Gavin has found a new magical item or something like that. You guys throw some ideas, and we'll see what happens next. So, so Gavin, before we start, we've got a visual description of it. So I want to learn a little bit and get inside Gavin's head whilst we're doing this viewer decision. So what is Gavin thinking? What are his kind of motivations to going to see the Raven Queen? What's he hoping for? What does he fear? Basically, we want to learn more about Gavin.
Okay, for some reason. Okay, there we go. Sorry, you disappeared there for a second.
That's weird.
That's the biggest thing. I think, Gavin for so long has really dedicated his life to St. Cuthbert. And so, it's been the really the core of everything that he is. His mother taught him that. He has his sort of the Bible of St. Cuthbert is just this little, very thin, very simply written book called St. Cuthbert and Common Sense. And everything that he's experienced through life has been, use your head, you can figure it out. There's simple solutions to complex problems, that type of idea. Sort of a very rational approach to that. And here's something totally irrational, something he can't explain. He has his hand, this mummified hand, this living sort of necrotic, something that is it good? Is it evil? Is it just what it is? I mean, that's what little he knows. And whether she protects the transition of life to death, not necessarily how it's alive. And so he doesn't know if that fits or not, or what he's going to do. It's a pretty confusing time for him. And this piece is he's got to figure out how he's going to live his life. I mean, part of his first irrational thoughts before his common sense locked in is, do I cut this thing off?
Right,
is that the answer? Is the right answer? Is the common sense answer? Just cut it off. If it's bad, cut it off. But he's also a guy looking for purpose, and maybe this is part of all of how his purpose is going to be. So, we'll just have to see.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring this picture in here for you guys. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. We can do this. Cool. Excellent. So we got a bunch of ideas. We got a straw poll in the chat, and we'll get some ideas. So along the road, you haven't met anyone yet. It's been this very kind of long, arduous path since you met Asa and the Hag and the events at the Hanging Tree, which we don't need to go into any great detail, but if you guys are interested, the Hanging Tree is up on YouTube. There's a full episode there explaining how Gavin exactly lost his hand, but it was replaced by a hag with some certain kind of dark, kind of ambient powers, and she clearly has some kind of link to the Raven Queen, because ever since this happened, you felt this call to go to along the Long March to the Raven Queen. You're treading through these kind of ashen wastes, and in the distance before you, and you're probably parched at this point and probably quite dehydrated, not enough food or water on the way, you see a town ahead of you, or looks like a town, all made out of this kind of dark stone. In the kind of distance, you just kind of make out some lights coming from the town. It's getting darker, and it usually is quite dark in this place in the world, in the far west, and you see that there is some kind of civilization before you, and more than that as well, some huge gates behind the town. as well. So, Gavin, what are you doing here?
I need to go. I mean, I guess I will at least make I guess an investigation check just to sort of say, is there any specific details about the gates or the town more than what you've described, or is that pretty much what it is?
Sure. Yeah. You from what you can see, the town seems to be a fairly small one. Very kind of small, little sheltered community in the kind of shadow of this gate, and you can't tell details about the people. You can see little kind of specks of ants walking around, and the gates seem to be huge, made out of some kind of wrought iron, and the same kind of material that the buildings are made out as well, some kind of dark stone packed up against here. Certainly not any kind of architecture which you've seen. You're kind of in the far west of the world at this point, so it's very different from the kind of stilted wooden structures that we saw last episode on the Samurai Sigil, and away from kind of medieval European types of buildings and structures as well. So certainly seems quite foreign to Gavin.
But it's metal.
Appears to be some kind of metal.
Lots of metal work. Well,
yeah.
Gavin with his at this point, he's looking for any kind of sign, and he's gonna. While it might be grasping at straws, that it's metal and he's a blacksmith. He's gonna think that that's where he needs to go. He might even close his eyes for a second to see if he hears the sound of a forge or something like that, because that's often been a guide to him in the past before, is hearing the sounds of a forge.
Yeah.
So he definitely is heading that way, but hoping, just he's putting his faith in that this is where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So you kind of take a deep breath. You listen out. You can't hear a forge, but maybe you think that you can for a second, and then you decide to kind of press on, and you start heading out. And it's at this point you continue down along this road, and I'm going to bring in our viewer decision here, and you come across what seems to be some kind of ancient battlefield here. There appear to be the kind of signs of barely buried dead, where the ground has just sort of risen up above them and kind of half buried them. You see kind of like skeletal hands kind of crawling out, well, not crawling out, but kind of like sticking out at this point, and all sorts of belt buckles, and bits of swords, kind of ancient, cracked, broken things around here. Clearly someone fought and died here. It's not like a huge battlefield. It seems to be more like a skirmish. Maybe 10 or so combatants maybe fought here, and you can see where at least 6 or 7 kind of dead shapes, where probably bodies or skeletons are buried. And yeah, you just smell a kind of stench of death coming through here. These things have been dead for a long time around here.
I guess I look around. I do head off the path, and I try to ascertain what I can about them, and I think also just I'm going to go with, I got to go with common sense here, see if I can sort of figure out what this battle was, and at least try to give some kind of rest to these bodies that obviously have not had any sort of last rites or treatment or anything. I mean, Gavin is looking, grasping at straws for the goodness, within him, and through the familiar of what he knows of his life as a paladin and of St. Cuthbert.
Gotcha. Yeah. I tell you what, you could roll me a religion check here if you wanted.
Okay, which is not his best. Not his best at all.
Not his best, not today. So on that thought, you kind of have a moment to sense what this might resemble or kind of mean, and you're looking down at these bodies, you're kind of going. I mean, you've been traveling for a long time without enough water and food. You're kind of you're losing it a little bit. You're probably getting a few kind of audio kind of delusions and hallucinations and stuff like that. And you're kind of walking along, and like one of the hands just kind of like grabs your ankle, just very kind of like. It doesn't like seem to like raise the body up or anything. This hand is just like grabbing itself around your ankle.
It doesn't seem like it's truly undead though.
Well, I mean,
It's moved, and it's obviously a skeleton,
yeah,
right?
This thing is clearly not well.
I will use my divine sense just to see what is. Let me see. Find it. Where's divine sense? There it is.
So yeah, that's really divine sense. So you can locate that there are these 6 undead within the ground. The others seem to be kind of dormant, but this hand has grabbed you. However, it hasn't seemed to like pulled itself up from the ground to try and like raise itself to attack you. It's just kind of grabbed your ankle, and you can kind of see the head trying to like shift its way out of the dirt. But it can't quite kind of make it. This thing has been dead for so long that its kind of like undead infused limbs don't seem to be working very well.
So I just cast that. No, that's one of my other. So, well, let's go ahead and break up. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the unholy. Go ahead and do turn them.
Nice. So you kind of. What does that look like, in fact, for Gavin as well?
So Gavin, for Gavin, it's a little different because Smith and St. Cuthbert, and the way that he was visited by St. Cuthbert, he grabs his holy symbol, which is a wheel with sort of brass rays on it. He grabs that, but he takes his hammer, which it's sort of it's a modification of his Smith hammer, and he takes it, and it starts to glow as well. And he slams the head down on the ground. I mean, it's kind of like, envision if anyone else is a comic book fan, envision the Captain America when he holds the shield with his head down. Sort of the same idea, except he's slamming the hammer, just straight down like a sledge, and sort of channeling the divinity down through his hammer into the ground, and it spreads out in sort of this golden light across the ground.
Nice,
so
nice.
30 feet of space around me is the distance of it. So it just starts, sort of shoots out like the same rays that are on his symbol, shoot out in all directions out and across.
Nice. And these rays just kind of like bury themselves into the ground and seem to kind of worm their way into the skeletal hand, and immediately just begins to like disintegrate down and like buries itself back down, trying to escape from these kind of rays. And in fact, these things are like so old and kind of desiccated that it seems to be kind of like actually destroying them, bringing them down into like bone dust, basically. And thank you to Smirt Burt Pert for following. Welcome, my friend, to the adventure. You're a gentleman and a scholar. So yeah, that's what your kind of turn on holy goes, and these creatures kind of bury themselves back down into the ground. It looks like it might be safe to kind of traverse at this point. They look like they don't want to like come anywhere near you, but these things didn't seem to be particularly aggressive in the first place anyway. They seemed more kind of, I mean, the grasp upwards seemed more kind of like hopeless than anything really.
Okay. I think I'll continue out in the battlefield trying to maybe investigate and see. I mean, at this, I mean, he would love to maybe to try to. He's just going to do something weird, and it's. Okay. I don't know how it's going to work, just because he's a low-level paladin, so he doesn't have some of the big guns for consecration or thing like that. He is just going to put. Wow, this could get interesting because he's got his dead hand too. So he puts his 2 hands down on the ground. Sort of. What can he discover? Sort of where the center of the battle seems to be, where the 2 sides sort of. The nexus of the 2 sides coming together.
Definitely.
So he goes there and sort of sees how that is, and kind of sighs, because for him, war is one of those things that doesn't have much common sense to it.
Yeah.
He places both of his hands down on the ground and closes his eyes, and he actually uses his paladin lay on hands. It almost to heal the land, to heal the battlefield, to do that. And I know that's not what lay on hands is, just meta. I know that's not what it does, but that's all he can offer right now. Even though it's one's going through his living hand, and then also through his dead hand.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like that.
Placing it on the ground, just because that's all he has. That's all he can do to maybe heal this wound of this battle in this land.
Yeah, you kind of cast it down into the earth, and the energy from your hands runs down into the soil, which has been kind of like crawling with the maggots, trying to leech off any last kind of bits of meat from these bones which have been here for so long. And you kind of the rays kind of go down, and like they're kind of combated by like your own skeletal hand, which is sending down. It's like trying to heal, but it's kind of like fighting against its own nature, and kind of infusing them with this kind of like undead energy at the same time. So you're sending out kind of two different kind of mixed beams of energy into the earth. Like parts of it begin to heal and parts of it don't, and it kind of comes into this weird kind of mix of the two, like the channel down into one another. And as you're kind of closing your eyes seeing this, you get kind of flashes from the battlefield itself, these kind of like images of what was going on here, kind of resonating in your like the memory of the soil, and you see that there are these men carrying these like huge mauls and axes, who are just kind of destroying these much less unarmed men who are carrying sigils of the Raven Queen on them, whereas the guys, the big kind of like plated male guys, seem to be paladins of some sort. You can't quite decipher what the symbol is, but there's these two kind of forces at play here, and it seems like the paladins definitely just completely destroyed whatever small kind of like party were here, these 6 men who died here so long ago. And that's kind of, and then you kind of just like pull away as your energy is spent, and you're kind of around you, and the earth is like half healed in one place. There's even some grass growing up, and in another there's this like this dead tree which you've like sapped the energy from with your skeletal hand.
Wow, that's awesome, Will. I guess I see that, and do I get a sense that the Raven Queen army, or the small force of the Raven Queen, came from the city? I mean, is that what they're protecting? That was at their backs. What they were.
It's a reasonable thing to assume. If this is the Long March, then this kind of town might have been what they were attempting to preserve. Yeah.
When I look at the paladins, I'm gonna have to link the extended story. Believe it or not, what I posted is the short story version of my backstory. My real backstory is about 15 pages. But it's interesting because he had some run-ins with some paladins who thought he wasn't holy enough in his long backstory. Does he see on any of the warriors out there, does he find a identifying marker or holy symbol of theirs?
Yeah, in these kind of flashes, one of these just like brief images which you get is one of these paladins who has this kind of like thorns like around his neck, like a crown of thorns, but they wear them around their neck, which is a kind of self-flagellating deal, because obviously these thorns kind of go into your skin and kind of bleed down. But these are a particularly kind of zealous sect of the paladins of St. Cuthbert, who would have been the kind of group of people who would definitely say that you're not holy enough, because they wear these kind of marks to like please their god as they see it. But many in the order believe that this is crazy. But these guys are like, they're the real zealots out here.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
And yeah, Gavin's familiar. So that definitely spurs him onward to the town, to the city, because he understands, and in his backstory, he was assured by Saint Cuthbert that the zeal and judgment that some of his order have taken on is not necessarily his message. His message is also that of common sense and being smart. So yeah, he heads with a little bit of haste towards the city. He wants, first thing, to see if there's anyone left alive, and knowing that this battle happened long ago, is somewhat worried about what he's going to find there.
So yeah, you move on from the battlefield down towards the town, and as you're coming towards the town, you do indeed see people walking around. There are a few guards on the outside, and all of them wear a symbol of a raven upon them, whether that's tattooed onto their body or they're just like a symbol around their neck on a chain, or if it's somewhere on the outfit, so they have it. They are kind of, there's no wall or like kind of outside perimeter, but they do have a kind of guard line where they seem to be kind of patrolling. And thank you to Sedlon for following. You're a gentleman and a scholar, sir. And you see on this, as you're kind of growing closer, it seems like there are these different kind of like temple buildings. It seems like everything in this place is a temple. They don't appear to be kind of like, the usual taverns and kind of like house buildings that you'd normally see in a town. Everything is like either a small temple or some kind of grand cathedral. And as you're coming up to these kind of these iron wrought gates, which are just behind the town, they're huge, looming in the sky. They stand hundreds and hundreds of feet tall. Whoever put these up must have been, giants. There are a few men who are kind of interested in you as you begin to approach the town, which is kind of covered in this kind of dark aura around it. It kind of just feels like everything has got slightly more shadow than it really should do. These men are armed. They kind of look towards you as you're beginning to enter, hands on their swords as you draw closer. And one of them speaks up as he says, "Who are you, Marcher?"
Gavin Fjordhammer. I seek your counsel. I seek counsel of the Raven Queen. I'm looking for answers, and also shelter, for, if nothing else, shelter for the evening, so I can continue my march to wherever she seems to be leading me.
He says, "The Queen is beyond the gates, but she decides who enters and who leaves. First, if you are a long marcher, you must speak to Hannibal, our leader. He will judge you."
I would like to meet him very much then.
And these men kind of nod, and this one guy starts to lead you through this town, and he says, "Oh, and welcome to Kirkmere."
Kirkmere?
Or what's left of it, at least. He says, kind of looking around him at the town.
What happened here? I visited the battlefield outside.
He says, "That is but one small one that's still there, but we've been having some problem with paladins recently of certain order of St. Cuthbert who have been culling our numbers. They've been persistent for the past, 20 or so years, and, the Raven Queen provides when she can, but she is busy and cannot focus all of her attention upon us. Hannibal has been leading us through the defenses," and he says, coming to a temple before you made out of this kind of dark stone, and you kind of enter inside. It's like like a cathedral. This one's very large, and you kind of walk inside, and there's all of these pews for worship, and several people inside who are currently praying, and very, very cold in here as well, just like any cathedral, but even worse because there's the kind of aura of the Raven Queen about it. And there's this one man standing at the kind of pulpit, who's currently kind of reading through some of his notes, it looks like, who is a man maybe in his 40s or so. He is very kind of cultist looking like. He's got these kind of long, kind of dark robes upon him. Looks like he's got a lot of tattoos all kind of over his body, which run over them, and these kind of jet black eyes, which kind of look up as you enter. And the man walking with you says, "Hannibal, we have another marcher with us. He says he wishes to speak with you greatly." And man who he addresses as Hannibal kind of like comes down from the pulpit and walks towards you with the kind of ease and grace of someone who's fought before, who knows, well-balanced kind of gait, kind of assessing you as he steps towards you, and he says, "Thank you, brother. You may leave." And he kind of like bows to him and leaves. And Hannibal looks towards you, Gavin, and says, "To what do I owe the pleasure, Gavin Fjordhammer?"
I believe your queen has brought me here. Or if not brought me here as my final destination, at least as a stopping point. I'm in search of answers. I am a member of the Order of St. Cuthbert. I am a paladin of his, and I know my brothers, my deluded brothers, have given you grief. I've seen the battlefield outside. I have, not understanding what all has happened to me, was granted a view of that battle, of that time when it happened. And I guess is still happening. But I beg you, I know those of my order probably don't deserve anything from you, but I must find answers. See, I recently have acquired this, and I pull the glove off my hand, where it radiates with the black, probably the same black aura that surrounds this town.
He kind of like takes off one of his gloves and reveals that he's got like a few skeletal fingers, but not a whole hand gone. And he says, "You seem to be truly touched by the Raven Queen. Interesting. And you have survived the march as well, something that most others do not. I will consult with the Raven Queen. In the meantime,
I thank you.
You are permitted bed and board here in Kirkmere, and whilst you are allowed to be here, there are many in town who would not see you kept well. Therefore, I will be giving you a guardian to look after you and to watch you for the sake of your own safety and to please those amongst my order." And he kind of looks over to a corner where there's a girl who's wearing this kind of she's got like a hooded kind of dark robes on her as well, and she's been there praying, and he says, "Signe," and she kind of looks up and turns towards you. Signe, for those
Thank
interesting. It's a Danish name, and she looks up. She's this pretty girl who's probably like 25, but she's pretty, but she's got this kind of like super like emo gothic thing going on. She's got really pale skin. You're not sure if that's makeup or just her natural complexion. These piercing jet green eyes and this kind of white hair, which must be kind of bleached this color, unless it's just somehow like through stress it is this color. And she kind of steps forward, and she says, "How can I help you, master?" And Hannibal says, "Signe, we need to look after our friend here. This is Gavin Fjordhammer." And Signe kind of smiles towards you, and she immediately goes and kisses your face. Like full on, like passionate kiss kind of thing going on.
Like
oh no, we're talking lips. We're talking like sucking your face, basically.
Gavin is certainly shocked by this. Sort of stammers. Gavin Fjordhammer, nice, so nice to meet your acquaintance.
She kind of like, she says, well, not my type. And Hannibal says, sorry, Signe is a vampire. She means your blood type.
I've actually encountered one of your kind before. One of my companions fell down with your condition. Actually, at the same time, when I gained my hand. I will appreciate your protection and know that you're more than capable.
She says, "Oh yes, I'll be keeping watch of you night and day, Gavin. Let's go to your quarters." And she starts leading you down to the kind of back of the temple where they seem to have living quarters. There's a very simple room here, which kind of got one bed, a chair on the opposite side, like a small wardrobe, and a candle lit kind of bedside. And she says, "This is where you'll be staying. Hannibal says I need to watch you at all times, so if you need to go anywhere, just let me know."
Certainly.
Well, she sits down on a chair on the opposite side of the bed. "I'm sure you must be tired. If you want to undress and go to sleep, you can."
Actually, famished first is there a kitchen. I pull Agatha off of my pack and say, I can cook my own if you can just point me to a fire and maybe somewhere where I can procure something to cook, something to eat.
Oh, yes, I forget the mortal need to eat food rather than hunt prey. Yes, let us go to the kitchen, shall we? And she kind of leads you through no, it's not a side chamber. Well, there's like a kitchen going. You'd expect like a horribly like kind of macabre kitchen made out of like bits of flesh and meat and everything, but it really is just like a normal kitchen with people just like chopping up herbs and stuff like this, and you know they kind of give you that look, which is like, you know, Raven worshippers got to eat too, man. As as you kind of come in, and Signe says, "Make sure that our guest here has plenty of food. He's hungry." And they immediately start kind of, you know, helping you out to make a meal. They seem to be kind of like, they notice like the symbol of St. Cuthbert upon you, and they seem to be kind of wary of you. But with Signe's presence there, she's like, her eyes are like lasers in the back of your head. She just doesn't stop. She doesn't blink either because she's a vampire. She also doesn't sleep, which probably helps as well. And they seem to be like reassured by her presence there.
Gotcha.
And so fairly quickly you can get some, you know, some food on the go, a pot in in Agatha on the brew.
And so you know, I sort of make conversation. You know, this is Gavin's nervous tick when he's feeling unsure. You know, what he does is he cooks. So you know, he started making conversation with the other people who are cooking as well. Oh, Gavin, Gavin, boy, Hammond, nice to meet you. Salt, could you pass the salt from over there? And just sort of, you know, he's nervously, getting rid of some pent up nerves here. But he's also, I mean, as you said, he's been traveling a long time, so he's hungry. So he's making a big old skillet, sort of like a mixed skillet of whatever he finds in there. Meat, eggs, vegetables, it's sort of all going into a giant stir fry type idea.
Nice, yeah. So you kind of put it all into one big pot, and you get it going. These guys tend to kind of like, okay, as you like explain these things and kind of like silently hand you things. They don't tend to be like big conversers, whereas Signe seems to be more kind of into like having a chat and stuff like that. She seems to be interested. So she says, "So why did you decide to join such a bizarre order?"
I was drawn to it. My mother before me always had St. Cuthbert's word around, and as I grew up, I just I fell into it almost. His teaching of being good, doing right, using your head to solve your problems. I always felt that was the right thing to do.
But what does any of it matter when you're dead?
I'm not sure that it does, but it certainly can make our own life and hopefully the lives of others better while we're here. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
She smiles as if it's like not a, it's like a rhetorical question kind of thing, and she's like, she like dabs in a finger into your kind of, and she like pulls this like face as if like mortal food. And but the other guys around here are like, this is kind of good. And so you take a few minutes to have a chat with Signe, to have a broth on the go, and I guess by this time it's getting actually pretty late because you got into town fairly. It's getting dark, so now it's probably getting towards like midnight and stuff like that. So if you want to rest and recover up from the journey, now would be a good chance to do so.
Yes, absolutely. So finish eating. Share some with whoever else might have been in there, or certainly do the normal cooks thing. Hey, would you like some of this? I'll try some of that. I guess talking with Signe, it might be for later, but I might I'm certainly already wondering how she became a vampire, but it might be. Gavin's not quite sure if it's rude to ask.
Yeah, it's like, how old are you, kind of thing.
So heads up.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thank you for your hospitality. I would very much appreciate rest now.
Shall we go to bed?
Yes, we shall.
She she like walks into your room and like sits down on the chair, starts reading a book. Oh, don't mind me.
Certainly, I understand you are to watch over me. He's a little bit taken aback by it, but he has been adventuring, I guess, long enough that men and women in the same campsite. It's a little weird being in the same room, but he leaves his under jerkin.
Is that
whatever the correct term is, his under jerkin and leggings on.
This is my over jerkin.
Probably pretty much how he would sleep anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out on the campsite, so and
she's like laser eyes watching you, like she's like fascinated by the idea of sleep.
Yeah, and I'm just because it always is. I'm assuming that the bed is too short because he's about 6'7".
Yeah, yeah, probably.
And kind of his normal. Try to sort of scrunch onto a bed. If it's really bad, he might end up laying out on the floor instead.
I've got a coffin if you're interested.
Yeah, how uncomfortable is the bed?
I mean, like it's probably bad, but it's not so bad that you'd want to like sleep in a coffin.
He might sort of make the joke, but not.
Yeah. She likes to watch mortals breathe. Yeah, probably. So you eventually kind of go to sleep, and Yeah, at this point we're on the hour, so remind you folks, if you want a viewer decision where you guys get to throw something into the story, hit that follow button and join us. You also get 100 gold when you do that, and you can retweet that tweet down there in the chat. 20 retweets, you guys get to decide something which happens next in our game, so go ahead and do that. We're here 5 nights a week, 10 shows a week here on Again Roleplay, plenty of D&D and lots of other tabletop role-playing games as well. Here's the full schedule for you guys, if you don't believe me. So, yeah, get following and get tweeting to affect the story here. So, the next morning, you wake up with Signe kind of in your face. Just like you open your eyes and she's like there, like looking at you. Hey.
Good morning.
It is?
Well, we're alive, aren't we? And
No.
He kind of laughs as he says that.
She like completely misses the joke. She's like, no.
And he kind of, at this point, he kind of pats her on the cheek and he goes, you are an interesting one. I'll give you that. And gets up, puts on his splint armor, sort of gets. And he looks at Signe and he goes, mind if we go by the kitchen first?
Yes, I suppose we can.
So just his normal, heads back over the kitchen. If there's anyone there he saw from the night before, says hello, does his, again, thing, kind of gathering his thoughts of this strange new thing. And he has decided to ask Signe at this point. So
She kind of initiates a conversation. Actually, she says,
okay.
She says, "What is that thing you do in your sleep?"
Dream?
No, the loud noises you make. Are those dreams?
Quite possibly. Or unless it's snoring. Is it kind of like this?
Yes, you sound like a stuck pig. It's been so long, I don't remember.
Snoring. It's what we humans still do. It's been a curse of mine ever since I was young. My mother used to tell me I would wake the whole village with.
How can we free you from this curse?
I don't think there's a way unless I stop breathing.
Is that an option?
Not quite yet, I don't think, but we shall see, won't we?
I suppose we will. You humans are strange. I tend to stay alone, not study them here.
Where are you from?
Originally?
Yes.
I don't quite remember what it was called. It was a seaside town.
I've never been to the sea. Was it beautiful?
Stunning. One of the few things that I remember from my life is watching the boats go out every morning when I was a little girl.
Gavin kind of closes his eyes and imagines it. He's only ever seen lakes, never the sea or anything of that size. I've heard of the sea. I've heard tales of it and of people going off on adventure. I think maybe some of those tales are why I decided to adventure instead of just stay in my smithy after so many years.
She nods and says, well, travel is dangerous too.
That is true. You never know what the fates might send your way. I certainly never expected this, and I bet you never expected where you've ended up. Is it rude of me to ask what happened or how you came by becoming a vampire?
I don't think so, no. I was down by the sea, like I used to be. How I loved being. We went on a boat. There was a man. I don't remember his name now, only that he had this dark black hair. He was with me and my mother, I don't recall why, but we were out on the boat in the sea, and I remember the sun against the waves as they rippled by us. And then suddenly the boat was gone. I was in the water and so was she. A huge wave had come towards us and swept us off. There wasn't any sun anymore, it was just storm, and I was in the waters as they were raging around me, and then I remember the darkness down there. I stopped struggling. I floated up to the surface. I was dark. It was very dark, and I found myself in a cove. I remember waking up somehow amazed that I was there, and this dark-haired man was before me, and there was blood. She kind of like reflexively goes towards her neck. And from there, it's always been dark.
Are you no longer able to see the sun in this condition? Are you forever of the night now?
Yes. I haven't seen it for hundreds of years. Part of me wants to go out there and see it for one last time. But I know that if I do, it might all come back. And it would be the end. The very end.
I take her by her shoulders. And how tall is she? Shorter?
She's shorter.
And just sort of look into her eyes and say, we all have a purpose. We all have a reason. There will be a day for you to return to the sun. But I don't believe that day is yet here.
She kind of like puts her like hand on her cheek and says, "You are a strange creature, Gavin Fjordhammer. Is that hope I see in your eyes?" And she kind of leans in and says, "Do you see it in mine? They're like jet black."
There is always hope. Whether it's in your eyes or in your heart, you can have hope. And know that there is a reason to all of this, no matter how painful or how difficult. It is what it is.
Perhaps so. Perhaps not. Maybe I am cursed to never see the sun again. Or maybe I will see it again. Maybe we will go down to the sea. On a boat.
When it is your time, and if you want company, I will watch that sunrise with you so you are not alone.
I've never... Company. She seems to be like turning the thought around in her mouth. Yes. Company. That would be nice. Thank you, Gavin.
Always at your service.
She
You
kind
have
of like...
done me a great service this day, or in the days to come even, for helping me find my way. So I will do nothing less than help you find yours as well.
She like lifts her like fang kind of mouths like into a little kind of grin, toothy grin, and says, "Well, Hannibal's waiting. He says that he's spoken to the Queen."
Ah, yes. We should go see him. We should go see him post-haste. So we were in the kitchen. I was cooking, not eating, all that good stuff. I sort of put my stuff away, always cleaning off Agatha so she's ready for the next time. And
She's like bemused. She doesn't know what you're saying, but she just kind of nods, and she just kind of starts walking like behind you, just trailing in your footsteps. And you come out into the kind of main cathedral, and Hannibal is there, and he just kind of turns to you, and he says, "Gavin Fjordhammer, welcome to our hall. The Raven Queen has seen fit to allow you here, and perhaps speak with you to unlock the potential in your hand."
I would very much like that.
But first, she has a few questions, or perhaps answers. And he says, he brings this kind of like bowl of like water towards you, like kind of crystalline clear water. And all this time, Signe is just kind of watching you. And he grabs it, hands it towards you, and says, "Drink of this. It'll grant you many visions, sent by our queen."
He takes it. Big bowl? Small bowl?
Yeah, kind of a little bowl, yeah.
So yeah, he takes it, and he kind of makes a point that he's holding it in both hands, because he, kind of has that, one hand is life, one hand is death for him right now. And in his own way, he knows he's in the domain of Raven Queen and is about to truly dive into the Raven Queen, but by at least using his living hand, hopes that maybe St. Cuthbert will, he believes St. Cuthbert will always be with him no matter where he goes. So he sort of takes it in both hands and lifts it up and drinks it. He closes his eyes and prepares himself for what's to come.
Yeah. Nothing immediately happens. The water is very cool and clean as you drink it. Some of the best you've had walking along the long march. And you just kind of down it, and Signe just kind of like watches you whilst Hannibal does as well. And it's at this point, this water kind of runs down your mouth, down your throat into your body, that you just begin to feel very, very cold. As this kind of like very icy kind of tendrils work their way down your body through from this water as it source all the way down to your kind of toes, and you just kind of like close your eyes for a second, and last thing you see is kind of Signe's eyes as she kind of like tilts her head watching you, and you feel yourself kind of like stumbling backwards and falling, and suddenly you're no longer in the room with Signe and Hannibal. You're in fact in a totally different place. You're in this kind of weird, dark room. Seems to be some kind of courtroom, as there are 6 men who appear to be kind of on trial, standing in their kind of like pulpits, whilst there's one dog-headed judge who stands with this kind of giant double-handed axe. And it's just you kind of alone in here. You're kind of just like watching this. You're more of just an onlooker rather than really being there. You can't really kind of feel the same like senses that you did before. You just have incredibly strong kind of vision and kind of scent of smell here.
A kind gesture.
And thank you to Karakti. He says, "Can't let this awesome RP go on by unrewarded. Birthday table for Gavin. I'm sitting here with crossed fingers, hoping it'll be something adequately awesome." Thanks so much, Karakti. If you want to be a D69 quickly here, Gavin, and we'll get this kind of magic.
Slash roll? Oh, yes, it is slash roll. It's like, what program am I in?
And yeah, you're just kind of watching this scene at the moment. That's the scene before us. So let me know what you get here.
Yeah, sorry. Again, let me get in the right program. I go up to a slash roll in Twitch.
That's not a good idea.
Here we go.
Good stuff.
34.
34. You have in your hand, just as you kind of appear on this place, you have in his hand a small brooch, and it's you don't know what this thing does at this point. Out of character, it's something which doesn't allow you to tell any lies.
Okay.
So you've got this kind of like brooch which you just kind of found in your hand, and you're looking at this this kind of dog-headed man, judge, and his courtroom with his 6 men. And it just kind of like begins to walk towards one of these men, and this guy is just kind of like head kind of hung as the dog-headed man just kind of swings the axe down and decapitates the man. You see the head just kind of like fall off, and they're lopped off completely, kind of rolls down towards your feet, and you look up at his face, and as you look into his eyes, your vision just kind of flashes again, and you appear, instead of being kind of where you were in this weird courtroom, instead you're in a dark alley. You're no longer Gavin. You are inside someone else's kind of like body. You are like a spirit inside of them at this point. There's a kind of dark alley. The vision is kind of blurry. Looks like he's swaying and kind of seeing double, most likely due to kind of alcohol. You are inside the kind of spirit inside a man named Monlak. The guy, the face of the man that you just saw kind of killed below in this strange kind of courtroom. This man, Monlak, who you're going to play for a scene here, Tallsquall. You are a guard in this town, not far, it's one of the towns just kind of before you go on a long march. You're a guard. You had a wife named Rava, but she has left you for another man named Torish. And you're out, you're drunk, you're ready to pick a fight with Torish. You know he drinks down the local ale house. Monlak himself is a man in his 40s, kind of balding, greasy, slightly paunchy, but he's got this kind of cunning to him. He is currently dead. You're kind of reliving out these Spectre kind of experiences, but we're going to kind of like role play through Monlak's kind of journey to how he got to that point. So, yeah, what is Monlak doing at this point?
Let me just make sure I got everything you said. So,
yeah,
Monlak's wife Riva left him for
Torish. Yeah, who you hate. He's this merchant guy, a rich boy, blonde hair, perfect teeth kind of guy, and Monlak's kind of this guy. He's like losing it a bit and can't really compete, and of course very jealous.
Okay, so I just need to ask you, Will, is this J. Tallsquall playing Monlak, or is it Gavin being Monlak?
This is Tallsquall playing Monlak for now,
okay.
and Gavin kind of seeing it.
Gotcha. And so I know that Taurus is down at the bar.
Yeah.
And I've already been drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a guard. A guard in the city that we're in?
Yeah, yes, indeed, yeah.
So, like, city guard.
Yeah.
Right, that bastard's down there drinking in my own tavern. He knows that's where I drink. He has Reva with him. I'm gonna kill the bastard. What is he thinking? He marches off down there.
Nice. So you storm your way off down towards the tavern. You see it kind of before you, kind of slightly blurry vision, and just kind of like bust open the door into the tavern, and all the kind of patrons turn to see who this figure is, and you see Torish, young in his like 20s, this long blonde hair, these perfect teeth, drinking, laughing, and he's saying, and that is when, my dears, let me tell you, she absolutely, and he kind of like looks as the the door kind of opens. He kind of like, his visage kind of like drops as he sees you. What is he doing here? And they're all kind of like, all the rich merchants laugh at you.
What am I doing here? What the fuck are you doing here? Get your twat ass out of this place. This is our bar. This is where the common people are, where the good people are, not your spoiled rich boy twat shit.
Oh, I'm afraid I've rather married into it.
You talking about my Reva that way?
I'm afraid
That's what
she's...
you're doing. Grabs him by the scruff of his, by the front of his shirt.
Duh.
Picks him up off the ground, right into his face.
Nice.
God, I wish I was a half orc.
Yeah, you just like smash this guy down, and thank you to Templeheim for following. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Yeah, you just like crash his face down into the ground. It's like kind of blood comes away from his mouth. He's like, I'm afraid she's not yours anymore, as he says, kind of like drawing this kind of like a rapier from his hip. You know, this is like a fine rapier like his daddy had melted down for him probably and made, you know.
Yeah.
And he's, if it's going to be this way, if you fight for her honor, not that she has much.
I grab him up by the scruff again because I'm not going to dirty my own house. Sort of going to the to the pub. We'll do this outside. And even though she's not mine, it doesn't mean that you get to disrespect her that way. Literally throw him out the door and follow him out.
Nice. You kind of like throw him. He's rolling down. He's on the floor currently as you throw him out onto the street. A kind of crowd gathers outside to see, you know, watch this all happen. And very, very quickly begin to, you know, kind of like surround you. You're kind of outside. He's still kind of rolling down on the floor. Do you wait for him to get up, or are you just kicking him already?
No, he waits. He's a guard. There's still a little bit. There's some honor in him, even though he's drunk.
Nice. So yeah, he kind of and just like stands up and goes, "On
Get
guard!"
Up, you twat.
And he kind of like launches himself towards you with his rapier. So what is Monlac doing at this point?
What weapons do I have? Is my sword and shield?
You've got like a.
Do I have anything?
You've got like a sword and shield, sword and board kind of guy.
Sword and board. Then he's drunk, but he's trained. He's a trained guardsman. I'm assuming this is little rich boy twat who took fencing lessons. So
yeah, exactly.
Again, being a guard and knowing the law of the town, he actually does the big shield check.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So you just kind of like.
He's all about making sure he's sitting on his ass in the mud as often as possible. He's not cutting him down. He's there to embarrass him.
Right. Yeah. So it's you kind of like knock him down. He comes at you again. You like crash him onto his feet, break his nose, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Trick him as he goes by. Face in the mud. If there's some horse dung around, rub his face in it.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's completely just like destroy him. And at this point, he just brings out this kind of like strange-looking kind of flintlock pistol and points it towards you. He's like covered in mud, dirt, blood, and worse. And he does not seem to be, like happy with you whatsoever. In fact, he seems to be very, like, kind of madness in his eyes as he kind of points it towards you and says, "I'm afraid your time is up. What say you, Monlac? Any last words?" And the crowd are kind of like, and you're like really drunk and like pumped up on adrenaline at this point. Like you're probably forgetting that you're even a guard. This is just like man on man.
You fucking coward! And I just charge him like to do a big, huge like football tackle of him, running towards him. You fucking coward! You don't deserve any of what you've gotten in your life, and you certainly will never be worthy of her. And just knowing he might or might not know he's rushing to his death if he's seen a flip-flop pistol before, but he's rushing in to just body check him.
Yeah, so you just kind of like launch yourself in towards Torish, and you kind of like barrel roll into him, and there's a bang, just kind of like explosion, just like rings your ears, and the crowd as well, and you kind of like land after you've grappled him, and you look down at Torish as he's somehow the kind of bullet has found its way into his chest, and he's kind of there on the floor just gasping as this like short range flintlock has just kind of like exploded into his chest, just like opening up this guy's chest, and he's just like on the floor like this. There's no way this man is surviving this as short range kind of flintlock. He's begins like spitting up some blood and coughing up blood as he's in his kind of death throes.
Fucking bastard. And I just sort of take my hand into his face and just sort of smear it in the mud a little bit more. And whether he's probably too drunk to know that he what's bound to be next. But stumble off into the alleyway. Maybe it starts to rain. It's that drunken stumble. It's raining. He's
exactly
still miserable, but this fucker's out of this world.
Exactly. Yeah. And you stumble off into the alley, and as this vision begins to like disappear, and you find yourself going further and further away from Monlark as Gavin's spirit is kind of taken away, and then very immediately, kind of like your eyes are kind of opened, and you're back into the temple, and there is Signe over you, who's just kind of like slapped you over the face to waken you up. There's all sorts of commotion going off in a corner in the the entrance of the temple, and Signe kind of just grabs your kind of face, and she's kind of looking down at you, and she's like, "What did you see?"
A man, a god of. I've got the wrong voice. Go now. A god, some sort. He was furious. And drunk and confused, but he was desperate. He had lost, or felt he had lost, everything. And he went and did the only way he knew how to express his pain was to kill another, or through his actions, death of another. He certainly wanted him dead, but there was honor. There was honor in him in a way, but he had lost all hope. He thought he had lost everything in his life. And he sort of, that's a painful thing. Gavin, having felt someone who was without hope, because somehow Gavin, through everything, has always maintained his. It was sort of a very new, painful thing for Gavin to experience, to know that feeling of no hope.
She says, interesting what we can learn from death. She kind of like brings herself back to the moment after a second, and she says, I had to awaken you before the rest of the visions. There are paladins coming. Already here, almost. St. Cuthbert paladins. They've come to take us away from this mortal coil.
My brothers, I assume, with the collars.
Oh yes. The blood drips from their necks, and I would like to taste it.
I think this might be the day that you do.
She kind of grins and you see her fangs. And she says, come with me. And she kind of like grabs you up, pulls you up, and heads outside, where Hannibal is kind of organizing a bunch of troops. You kind of see up on like a hillside coming down, maybe a group of like 20 or so of these heavily armed kind of paladins just kind of like running their way down the hill, kind of hammers raised, coming straight down towards the town of Kirkmere. And Signe says, well, I'm not sure if we can win this fight. Gavin, Fjordhammer.
I look at her and I grab her shoulders again and say, we can certainly hope we can. And then, prepare myself for battle.
Yeah. And Hannibal's there, kind of like he's got some like proper armor on this time. He's only got like a core kind of group of soldiers of maybe like, 15 or 20 or so. The town is pretty small, and all of their troops have been kind of like destroyed over the years, all these paladins, destroying them kind of one by one. And so they're kind of formed out around this temple with you guys, and kind of like a shield wall kind of thing, as these paladins just kind of like rush down the hill with their kind of collars around them, and they kind of rush down to the kind of main town area. Everyone else has kind of like fled inside, and they stop maybe like a 50 feet in front of you, and they just kind of stop, and one of these paladins just steps forward, and he says, "They say that one amongst your order is one of ours, turned from the light. Is that true?" And Signe kind of like looks towards you. He's talking about you.
Of course he is. Am I somewhere where I can be seen and heard?
I mean, at this point, we'll say you're kind of like just out of like sight if you wanted to remain out of sight, or you could step forward, break the ranks, and say.
Oh no, I break ranks.
Okay. She kind of like grabs your like hand as you're going, and then she kind of like looks at the gesture. She kind of like finds it weird that she did that, and says, "Company?"
Yes, I would appreciate it. And
she starts walking out of the crowd towards you as this kind of radiant paladin of St. Cuthbert with this thorns around his neck digging into his skin and kind of bleeding down as you see the dried blood where it's been cutting him before. And he says, "Who are you?"
I'm Gavin Fjordhammer, paladin of St. Cuthbert. One who has not perverted his teachings the way you have. I have not lost the light. It is you who have lost his teachings.
He says, "You are no true follower of St. Cuthbert, Gavin."
I've met him. Have you?
He kind of like, and he says, "You stand next to a vampire. How can you hold her hand?"
Because I know what the true meaning of St. Cuthbert is. I know what it means to have common sense, what it means to use your own brain to make your decisions, to not have others feed you poison because someone's not like you are. The common sense of all this is that we are all living beings here. We are no different. If we walk this earth, we are beloved of all the gods. Their gods, our gods, it doesn't matter whose. For you to say that yours is the only and that you get to hold the judgment alone is fallacy. It makes no sense. Read his own writings and you'll see the truth in this. You will abandon.
I have lived the truth, and I have seen the scum which walk here. I have slain them. I have seen this vampire bitch you stand next to drain the blood of 5 of my best men. And he says, "Unnatural, unholy, unwanted." As he kind of raises his hammer up and he says, "This day you will die, Gavin, and so will that vampire wench." As he kind of raises his hammer, and Signe just kind of looks up towards you, you being much taller, and says, "If you die, I would be very sad. And I don't usually feel anything."
We all will have our time, but today will not be mine. And with that, how far away is he?
He's like 50 feet away at this point.
Ew, God. I'm torn as to whether Gavin or not would shoot first. I think in this case he's going to shoot first.
Okay.
He shoots off a guiding bolt. Will a 16 hit?
16's a hit.
I am going to go ahead and shoot it at level 2.
Okay.
12 radiant, 13 radiant damage.
Nice. Excellent. So you just kind of, what does this look like as well? So you're kind of, we're going full cinema here.
Okay, so I was looking down at Sanye.
Yeah.
And said, but today will not be that day. And I'm holding her in one hand. I'm holding her in the I'm holding her hand with the skeletal hand.
Uh-huh.
So she is, she is the symbolism of death on Gavin. And he grabs his holy symbol of St. Cuthbert in his living hand. It flashes to light, and he brings it down. He gathers together the guiding bolt and then shoots it out while he's still holding her hand with the dead hand.
Nice. And it just kind of like
It will not be that day, and shoot it out.
he kind of fires up his shield, but some of it kind of splashes onto, like, the energy kind of like splashes onto his body, and you just see it kind of like sear him and burn him. At the same time, Hannibal just kind of like takes up the call. He says, "For the Raven Queen!" And they just like charge towards the paladins, the dark against the light, as all these paladins have their kind of like holy symbols glowing, and you charge towards them, and Signe draws this very long kind of like stiletto dagger and just like launches one straight towards one of the soldiers, and you see this kind of like immediately just goes straight into his throat. She takes him down, and the rest of them are charging in towards the group of you, and immediately combat ensues, and you see that the kind of melee just kind of draws into itself as they kind of crash together, these two sides, like a kind of tidal waves crashing into one another, and the combat begins to kind of spread everywhere. And immediately you're kind of hacking, slashing, blocking, defending, sawing off bits of different, limbs crushing, and bruising as you kind of like punch people as well, and you take several hits as well, and you see that their leader, with this kind of like incredible kind of like crown of thorns around his neck, is just kind of laying waste to Hannibal and his men. He's just kind of cutting swathes through them with his holy symbol glowing, and he is just kind of like, he's taken down 5 men, and you see another go down, and another, and immediately your numbers are kind of cut in half. You've taken down several yourself, and Signe is kind of fighting by your side, and then the paladin leader kind of turns to you, and he says, "My name is Gerhard Lind, and I will cut you down for St. Cuthbert this day, Gavin Fjordhammer." And he immediately just like charges towards you, and is kind of like rushing straight in towards you to smite you with his hammer. What are you doing, Gavin?
Gavin has been working his way through the battle the whole time because this bastard is obviously he's the the absolute embodiment of of what what Gavin knows St. Cuthbert is not.
Mm-hmm.
St. Cuthbert is not judgment. He is not this zealous bullshit that they have. They've stolen St. Cuthbert's message and his vision, and so this is Gavin. Gavin's old demons, but also as he came to know St. Cuthbert, he knows this. He knows that this is not what St. Cuthbert's all about. So he's charging right in and saying, face me, and know that you are not what our patron believes that we should be. You are not what his word means. You are not a paladin. You are everything but. You have no honor. You have no faith. You have no hope.
I love the idea that you guys are kind of like battling through a series of like parries and ripostes as you're giving them this kind of like speech in between like different blows, and he's just kind of like slashing in with his hammer, and he's, I am a paladin, as he's kind of like fighting you, block another one, and he kind of like sweeps across his hammer, and Gavin is kind of like sent flying for a second as you're kind of like sprawling back onto the floor, and he's about to bring his hammer to like crush down upon you, and you're kind of like dazed from the force of the blow. Your kind of ears are ringing, your head's spinning, the Signe just kind of dives in at the last second and kind of like stabs him through the arm with her kind of stiletto, and goes into kind of like bite his teeth as well. You see the kind of fury in her eyes, and at the same time as this happens, he kind of and just kind of like grits his teeth, brings the blow back around rather than this kind of crushing blow to kind of like swipe her into the side, and you see that Signe takes this kind of like blow which sends her kind of flying off into the side, flying off, and she's kind of like thrown up against the temple walls in the force of this blow, and he's bleeding. She looks like she's been kind of like knocked out and completely taken down by this kind of like holy charge of divine radiant light and energy, and he comes back to Gavin, who's still kind of like sprawling from all of this, and he's gonna one down, one more to go, Gavin. Any last words for your false gods?
You will not prevail. You will never prevail. You are not what we were meant to be. You will never know what it is, for there is only two who hold the power of life and death, and you are neither. And I grab one of each of his hands, one in the dead hand, one in the live hand, and blow all four of my channel divinities between my two classes.
Nice.
Of channeling the Raven Queen through one. Channeling the Raven Queen through one, and St. Cuthbert through the other, and saying, life and death is not yours to decide. Only they decide.
I am a paladin. As this happens, you just kind of like surge this magic through him, courses up through his arms and through his skins all the way into his eyes, and you see this fire burning in his eyes as you just kind of charge him, filled with his energy, and there's a point where he just goes flying out from your kind of grasp, and you see him just being kind of thrown up against the temple, and of course it's the Raven Queen's temple, and so there's an image of a raven upon it, this very sharp, pointy beak, kind of jutting outwards, and it's as you're kind of throwing him towards that you see that he is just like stuck upon the temple of the Raven Queen, upon her very kind of beak, and he's just immediately kind of like instantly squished up against that, and he is just gone flying, and the rest of the paladins kind of see this, and they just kind of like and someone kind of look at you, and one of them just like drops his hammer as he's fighting one of the kind of cultists, and he just goes and kind of takes off the kind of the thorns from around his neck very painfully, as you can see them still like cutting into him, and they all just kind of like bow very low to Gavin after seeing that. And it looks like the fight is kind of over, as their leader Gerhard has been killed, and they've seen this kind of act of Cuthbert's light. Many of the men, however, are dead, leaving only a few of their number, as well as Hannibar, who looks like he's kind of pretty well wounded, and he, of course, Signe, who's been kind of like taken out by the side of the temple, just kind of beneath where Gerhard is, and Hannibar kind of hobbles over, and he says, "Thank you, Gavin. Thank you."
I run over to where Signe was to see how she is. I mean, I after that happens, I kind of am shaking a bit, looking at my hands. One's glowing, gold, the radiant light of Cuthbert. The other's, glowing black, sort of the, you kind of have the two sort of wispy, drifty golden and black, together, and he then remembers Signe and runs over to see how she is. What I mean is
she appears to be.
Is she dead?
she appears to be kind of unconscious as you kind of run over towards her, and you kind of stop by her side and kind of look down at her, and she's kind of unconscious at this point, just kind of like knocked out against the side of the wall.
I'm wary of the Golden Hand, just because I know with her origin it might be harmful, but I do take the Raven Queen hand, and I sort of brush it against her cheek and say her name and say, "Signe, today is not your day to go into the sun. Stay with us. Stay with us, please." Yes, it is always good to have company.
Oops, I was muted.
Yes, it is always good to have company.
She, you lean down, basically all I said was he leaned down, and she kind of begins to open up her eyes, and she said, "It's nice to have company." And, I'm still mute, it's just, she couldn't speak, guys. She was finding her voice. And, she says, thank you for helping me, Gavin Fjordhammer. I think it's time to get on a boat.
Is it? Are you sure? There's certainly much more for you to do.
Like what?
Provide others company. Even if you can't stay with me, I'm sure there will be others you can see. There are some of my brothers out there who they need someone to show them the way. I think you're that person.
She says, "Oh, but I will see others. But there are many beyond this world who I can speak with and give company. It's been so long since that time on the boat. And maybe it's been too long. I feel now the energy going from me, leaving my limbs. And honestly, it feels like a great weight is being lifted from me. Like peace has come to me."
Let me help you see that sunrise. If it is what you want.
Show me the sun, Gavin Fjordhammer.
So he brings around the hand of St. Cuthbert, which is still glowing.
Yeah.
Yellow. And he lays it and closes his and just pictures the sun over an ocean as he's always imagined.
And you see her eyes just kind of begin to kind of widen, and you see her just smiling, and from the kind of darkness of the clouds, the sun actually begins to illuminate the area around you two. And you see slowly as her eyes kind of close and you see the smile widen across her lips, she slowly begins to fade away into dust as the sun begins to just destroy her mortal or immortal body. And Gavin is left there with no company.
Assume she's turned to dust.
Oh yeah.
How about her dagger?
The dagger's still there.
The dirk.
Yeah. It's still there.
Gavin picks it up. Holds it up to his chest. And clears his throat. Turns around, looks at the battlefield, looks for an injured, and goes to work caring for the wounded on both sides. Whoever needs it most, he goes to first. Doesn't matter which side.
Nice. And you go to help the wounded, and Hannibal just kind of grabs you by the shoulder as you're, helping someone. And I like to imagine, Gavin's trying to help this guy who's clearly kind of dead, and you're trying to revive him, and Gavin's kind of just overcome by this kind of emotion. He's like, "No, I can save him," kind of thing. And Hannibal just kind of grabs you by the shoulder, and he kind of looks, and there's a deep sadness within his eyes as well, and he says, Let us go from this place. The Raven Queen would like to meet you, I think. She is the only one who can help us now. The only one who can find us answers in times like this. As you said, there are two. And as that happens, the kind of large, like huge gates behind the town just begin to kind of like open up very slow, kind of yearningly, kind of yawn open. There's huge kind of like screech of metal as they open up, and you see this throne before you, and you kind of you see seated on this throne that there is a woman sitting kind of at the top of like a set of staircases. Really, the gate is really just stopping you from seeing this kind of like open hall, essentially, with these kind of dark mists which are flowing out from them, and this old kind of lady who must be, you know, she looks like she could be about 100, this old kind of like cracked skin, and you see that there are all these kind of candles lit around her. And these candles are exactly the same as those from the Low Candle Marsh. Just kind of lit around her, kind of covering her almost. And there are these kind of tendrils of some material which are leading like from her skin, and they're kind of like in her all over and kind of like pouring out of her like tubes almost. It looks like she's been like hooked up to some kind of like gigantic like system of these tubes. And you see that she is, her eyes are kind of like barely seem to be open as the gates kind of open up, and Hannibal says, "Go and speak with her, Gavin Fjordhammer."
He puts his hand on Hannibal's shoulder and says, "I thank you. And I think I don't know how to tell you what you've done to me. No matter what she says, I've already learned so much. Thank you, friend."
Yeah.
And he walks in.
Nice, and he just kind of nods as you stand before the Raven Queen, ancient and kind of decrepit in her palace, or what's left of her palace. She just kind of like moves her eyes to look down at you. She doesn't seem to be able to kind of move her body at all. She's kind of like strapped into this throne due to all the kind of tubes going from her. Just looks down at you. "What have you come for, Gavin Fjordhammer?"
I came for answers. I came to know how I could be both at one with St. Cuthbert and with you.
Did you find your answers?
I think I did. I think you had a hand in this.
She, like the ghost of a kind of smile appears on her lips, and she says, "Maybe. But maybe you believe in fate. Maybe now you do, at least." She says, "There is a boat waiting for you, Gavin."
Does the boat lead to you?
And she says, "No. It leads to you. But only you can go there. It's the only place I've managed to keep her. She gives you this kind of like this look, very kind of like straight up. She just looks straight into your eyes, and she expects you to kind of know. There's a kind of knowing look there.
Mm-hmm. Then let us go on a voyage together. Or I guess it's time for me to go on a voyage then.
This path only you can walk. I will keep the boat there on the shores for as long as I can. She will remain there. But no others can come. And she may never leave. You understand?
I think I do.
And she nods, and this kind of path opens up beside her, through this kind of like rock, and you see this kind of like very slim kind of like gully of rock kind of just begin to open as the mist kind of part before it, and you see out and through this kind of gap, somehow you see the sea just kind of in the distance, and there's just the kind of, the sun just kind of on the waves, and there is a small little boat out there, and in the far distance you see this mist-wreathed island in the middle of the sea. Go, Gavin.
I go.
And you head through this kind of chamber of rock as you come out into the shore, and you see the sea for the first time. This kind of marvelous, glistening waves coming towards you, and that scent of the sea, that very kind of brisk, salty air coming towards you, and there are some gulls flying by as well, as you kind of exit from the shadows and out kind of on the other side, almost like mirrored, where one side is darkness and the other is light, and you feel kind of Sir Cuthbert's presence kind of re-embrace you again. There's a small little boat which Gavin gets in, and you begin to ride, just pull yourself through the waters, and we see Gavin as he is beginning to kind of row his way towards this mist-wreathed island. What's Gavin thinking at this point?
He's overwhelmed by the sea at first. He walks out into that sunlight, and as you said, he takes a moment and closes his eyes, and he hears those gulls, screeching and calling to each other, the sound of the waves on the shore, and that smell that anyone who knows the sea knows it anywhere they go. And he takes his breath, and sort of under his breath he goes, I now see why you loved it so, and why you could remember only this. Which sort of, steals his heart a bit to, there's part of him who, he might be walking to his death. This might be it for Gavin. This might be the end of his story.
Yeah.
But I think he's at peace with it. This is the end. This might be the end that was supposed to be. Also, as you said, when the sun hits him and he feels St. Cuthbert's presence again, I think he then feels that maybe this isn't the end, but a new beginning, that this darkness and light that he sees is now the new path that he is walking. And so, goes down to the boat and, starts
to row.
Starts to row.
Yeah. And it's as we see Gavin rowing straight towards the island, kind of just pulling the boat across these waves. That you look back, and the mist-wreathed island parts for just a second, and there is a figure standing on the beach, small in the distance right now, but you can tell it's a girl with very pale skin and white hair, and you begin to row straight towards her, and she just raises a hand and waves.
So,
and I mean, yeah, go ahead.
He certainly, he rows to her, beaches the boat, and he walks up to her, and he waves, and he grabs her hand, and he goes, "I thought you might need some company."
And she takes the hand and looks up at you and says, "Company would be nice, but you can only stay a while, and then you must leave to give others company. But you can come back here sometimes, when the time is right."
I would like that. It's as beautiful as you said. I can see why you always remembered it.
She smiles and says, "Yes. I'll never forget that. That sea before us, Gavin. What could be on it? You must sail, you know. You must journey and come back to me and tell me of what you see. But for now, we have our time together, and so we should make the most of it. I hear this is a common thing amongst mortals." And she just kind of leans in to kiss you.
It is, and Gavin leans in as well.
And it's as the camera just kind of pans upwards as Gavin and Signe are kissing, as we look up towards the sun. And as the sun kind of illuminates the scene and the sea across us, so we end the origin story of Gavin Fjordhammer.
Wow, Will, that was
Oh my god, that was a session.
Woo!
What do we think, chat? Boy, that's a... Whew.
Dude.
Credits roll.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I thanks for rescuing me the couple times when I was getting so choked up I couldn't talk.
Oh man, there's a lot of standing ovations, rounds of applause. That was a powerful story, I think, which we just told there.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Yeah, just I had no idea what to expect today with, whether it was going to be, Gavin basically doing a 2-hour training montage of how to use his hand, but that was much, much better. That was, wow. Good stuff, man. I can't wait to hear it with the music. I kept having people talking about the music because, I don't hear it on this side.
Yeah. Oh man, the music is definitely played a big part in making those scenes so kind of sweeping, and we had a lot of very emotional moments. I know we were gonna, normally these sessions go on for 3 hours, and so we could have gone on for extra longer here, but it felt like the kind of perfect moment for the story. It kind of ended itself at a perfect time, really. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to stay and chat for a bit about the session, about what went into it, and if you guys have any thoughts, feelings, questions about the session, do feel free to ask us about it. So on my side of things, for the session which I had prepped, I did not prep any of the Signe stuff, which is funny because it all became about that relationship, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that like immediately when we had that scene where you kind of like you asked her about how she became a vampire, and then you kind of became a full-on paladin. Oh my god! And thank you to the being for subscribing. Thanks so much, my friend. You're a gentleman, a scholar. I salute you, sir. But yeah, when you had that scene, it just really kind of like struck me that kind of there was like a weird, bizarre kind of chemistry between the two of them, and the fact that Gavin has a dark versus light thing going on, and she is the kind of dark to your light. It seemed to work very well, and then immediately it felt very important that she was kind of integral to the story. What the fuck did I take before I did this session? I don't know. I took peach juice, guys.
I was gonna say, I think we saw you drink your peach juice.
My favorite session so far, and the solid proof that something serious well done is just simply breathtaking. Thanks so much, my friend. Thank you. There's actually, I've been a bit inspired recently because I've been doing this podcast, Adventurers Anonymous, which is coming out this Friday, which had a lot of serious scenes in it. And if you're a fan of this kind of thing, then please do go and check out the teaser to Adventurers Anonymous. It came out just last night. I think you guys might enjoy it. Go check out Adventurers Anonymous. That's my little plug there. But all I wrote down for Signe was maybe vampire, and then immediately we kind of improv that whole thing of the Raven Queen, and I like the idea of kind of Pirates of the Caribbean style. You can visit her, but only occasionally, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's that kind of and it's cool that we had that kind of bond happen within the course of 2 hours. Between those two characters. Thanks, Griff. No worries, my man. It was really epic. Well, thanks.
Yeah, Griffin. Thanks. I was reading your stuff, Griffin, and it was amazing to read. Thanks for all the feedback. It was great.
Awesome. Yeah. So really, that whole kind of episode came about because it just like that scene was just a very kind of powerful one, I thought. And then you were like, how did she become a vampire? And I was thinking, oh god, I have no idea how she became a vampire. And then it just kind of bittersweet, very bittersweet. Yeah. She was an interesting character. I like Signe, and I'd like to revisit that again when we come back to the Samurai Sigil as a whole, and see how that affects that, because there was kind of a an odd thing going on with Asa before, with Gavin's character as well. Was she a love interest? Was she not? And now that Gavin has this very kind of far away, distant love that he can't ever kind of get to, other than very occasionally. It's going to be interesting. He's a very interesting character, I think.
Yeah, no, because I'm kind of wondering how to deal with Gavin as chat loves to throw interesting things at us, like with all of our kitsune, which actually I did some research. I'm not a big anime person, and so did some research about kitsune, and there could be something more there even as we go along. But the idea that Gavin has this relationship that I think he probably would always be true to. Of this, and just with Gavin, I think it's I think this is probably the love of his life, even though it was that piece, if only because she represents the resolution of such turmoil within himself.
Yeah.
It was a real crisis of faith he was going through with this, with the hand, and with being, basically, and just for folks out there who, for the D&D side of this, I saw some people asking, well, what's he talking about? His two classes. Actually a death cleric, which is normally a villainous character. So he has 3 levels of Paladin of St. Cuthbert and 2 levels of death cleric from the Raven Queen. And so,
Yeah.
As some of the as some of the things were sort of, I guess, presenting themselves, some of these death cleric attributes, golly, I've got them all written down here. There's so many.
Yeah,
Of
you
them.
got a bunch of traits.
Death Domain Reaper, the Reaper thing, the Touch of Death, channel Divinity Touch of Death, and all that type of stuff. But on the same note, what a lot of people forget is a lot of the resurrection magics are all necrotic. They're all necromantic in their piece. So there is a way that the two deities, Raven Queen normally being said to be true neutral, and Saint Cuthbert usually being either said that he's lawful neutral. So there is that neutral base, and you could even say, one of the Raven Queen's big things, which I saw people chatting about, is her big thing is the protection of life, of the transition of life and death. In that, all of undeath is an anathema to her because it's breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So even she even is probably true neutral, going to lawful neutral with the idea of the laws of life and death.
Right. So, yeah. Definitely.
So finding that peace between the two of them, I think is possible.
Yeah, 100%. I like duality, just like Riojo says, definitely. Roxana says, Will, how do you make a good story in Seeds Like Light on the fly? It was amazing. I don't know, sometimes, like, if you're inspired, really good kind of bits of improv happen, I think. And, when you get a really powerful scene, you get some good sweeping music going, then, you can do some really good things. I think the music definitely helped me as well get into that kind of zone. And I don't know. I think the story was just one which kind of resonated with me, and then I wanted to kind of make really good. So practice as well probably helps.
I could definitely feel your energy building in the scene, knowing that even though I couldn't hear the music, I could tell by your meter and the way your voice was changing that it was that we were building towards something. And so, like I said, Gavin was my first character. I really feel I know Gavin probably better, as much as any of my characters in my new playing. I know Gavin, and I owed people. They asked me to link. I actually, y'all got the short version of his story. I actually have a long, which also sort of introduces the world that I'm building. I've got to go get on my drive and tag it, but I will tag it when we're all said and done. Or actually, next time you start talking something long, I'll get it. But no, I mean, Lord knows I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what to say or what he would say.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, as you say, improv class. It's all about listening.
Yeah.
Listen and try to use each other.
Yeah, I think
help out.
I mean, we definitely played off on one another when there was a moment that one of us didn't know what was going to happen or something. The other kind of comes in, and the same way that was the same thing between the relationship between Signe and Gavin. When one of them didn't know what was going on, the other did.
Right.
The other had the answers to a lot of the questions which you came with, and I like the idea as well at the very end that it was you came looking for answers. You came to looking for the Raven Queen to find those answers, but by the time you actually found her, you already had those answers, and it was more a kind of personal crisis of faith which you were going through, and it's definitely a very powerful story, and the feels, man. Yeah, I like. Well, she was a vampire undead. It's quite surprising she was accepted by both the Raven Queen and the Paladin, but it worked out kind of in a strange sort of way, didn't it? Like they kind of. That Gavin accepted that because he's got that kind of dual nature of the undeath going about him.
Right.
And I like the idea that the cultists were kind of using her because while she is undead, she is also a powerful ally in the fight against the Paladins, and they only had like 20 men, so they're looking for anyone that they can get on their side, basically, even if it slightly goes against their, like principles, for instance. It's a journey, not the goal, indeed. his journey to the Raven Queen still led him to the answers. Very true, yeah. What's up, Mayfar? How's it going, man? So yeah, it was a good story from my side of the thing. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it as well. But boy, oh boy, where do we go from there next session? Right? You know, like.
Hey, well, that's what D&D's all about, man. It's that who knows what the next session, if I can talk, will bring.
Yeah.
There's always, there's a bazillion stories out there to be told, and you never know what's going to be the next one.
Yeah. Bye. How do we one out of that one, chap?
Here is the super long Gavin story.
Nice.
If people are interested, let's see if that works. If that works.
It was the whole thing felt like it'd been scripted from start to finish. Yeah. I guess that's what good improv seems like. You don't realize that it's improvised, so that's a compliment. Thank you, my man. You owe me a hanky. Emotional moments.
You'll notice if you read the big super long one, you'll see. I mean, basically, what I just did was a lot of editing to get to the short one. So some of it you'll completely recognize, but then there's a whole big section, and part of that. I'll do my own little plug. Part of that is what I said, is becoming the world that I'm building for what I want to DM.
Yeah, awesome. I really pulled into my duvet. Yeah, it was it's an emotional one from my side as well. I think both of us definitely had like some emotions going there as things were happening. So it was.
It was interesting. I didn't think it would get to me, but can I tell you the thing where I got most choked up?
Yeah.
Was Gavin doing the life and death thing, grabbing the other paladin's hand.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I would have, I didn't think that would move me, but it really did. That of Gavin, me just acting out, Gavin embracing the life and the death.
Yeah, and that final kind of like Star Wars style moment where you've got him kind of like gripped and he stands for everything which you've come to realize that you're not, and which Gavin is not. I think that was the moment that we truly realized who Gavin was, and what he was about. So, I very much enjoyed that scene. If you guys enjoyed today's show, do hit that follow button and join us to catch more. I can't promise that every single session is going to be just like this one. We have a lot of funny and silly episodes as well. We like to mix it up, but yeah, we do enjoy the serious role play, the heartstrings being tugged. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which means that I'm running a one-shot, which is about the players who is basically the same as Cirque du Soleil on the 24-hour stream. Going to be a similar premise. The adventurers are working at an adventuring school as teachers. Should be a lot of fun. And then after that, we have the dramatic and most likely rather heart-wrenching finale to Lost Mine of Phandelver. We've got a lot of inter-character relationships going on there, which are going to come to a head, and yeah, that will be a bit more like this one, most likely. So, if you enjoyed that, suggest tuning in to tomorrow for the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I don't think I can handle another seriously emotional RP anytime soon. Yeah, I like to do these. I guess it's good to have them like spread out, fair enough. Because if you had like the same level of intensity every episode, it would be kind of a bit too much emotionally. Kind of, be quite draining, I think. So you need to have the kind of the episodes which are more like standard, and then you can have these kind of like, oh god, episodes. So yeah, I don't know if you want to do like stick around for a bit. I'm going to stay on just till I finish up my few hours, but I don't know if you want to do kind of like a Q&A tool score if you want to stay around.
Oh yeah, I'll stick around. I was actually going to say that I'm probably going to be, if we're not streaming, that I'll probably still be in chat because I do kind of want to respond to some of all these great comments that people put way back up in the chat as far as they'll let me roll back. But yeah, no, I'll stick around.
Yeah, okay, cool stuff. So if you guys have got any questions, we're going to do like another Q&A session here, seeing as we didn't get as much time as I'd like to earlier to do it, and we want to finish up my 6 hours of streaming today. So if you do have any questions about D&D, whether or not that's the session here today, or just in general about like how to play, if you've got a problem with a group, how to find a group, that sort of stuff, Yeah, feel free to ask us, and we will do our diddly darndest to help you out here. Let's see. I made a random character on Roll20 or some site. It's probably Roll20. You said you couldn't find friends? Yeah, you can. I just did a section earlier on how to find D&D groups. So that'll be on YouTube tomorrow. So that should. I had like 10 different ways to find a D&D group. So hopefully that will help you. Will you have a good imagination? I heard a lot of it. Thanks, my man. Everyone has a good imagination, you know? It's just kind of accessing the imagination, which is the problem sometimes, you know? With any creative stuff. Like, some great musicians get, like, writer's block for years, you know? Or poets or writers and stuff like that. It's just kind of accessing the imagination is the difficult thing, I think. Because everyone has a good like people in chat have amazing imaginations, or every one of you. Especially when we do like collective writing sessions where we write the story together and the campaign. It was good. I'm gonna have to go out working myself. That I feel so sleepy, no worries. Exactly on the fly. Well, I think doing things on the fly in general, like improv scenes, just takes practice doing it to be to become kind of proficient in some of the skills needed to do things on the fly. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's kind of like a muscle you can train, you know. Let me change the title here. Okay. So I must have an epic imagination because I've had writer's block for several years now. That's it. That's how you know. Okay. Session. Perfect. So, yeah, you guys got any thoughts, feelings, emotions, questions? I'm sure you got a lot of emotions at the moment. But any questions about D&D? Oh dear, not enough peach juice, guys. Get more peach juice. That's how you get imagination, guys. If you want to improve your improv skills, just down peach juice.
There you go.
That's the way. Oh, man.
I mean, the other one, I mean, I was mentioning a little bit at the beginning is, you know, don't be afraid to just have something to sort of just flex those creative muscles. I used to do a lot of, in fact, I was going to go into sort of writing and more creative things back when I was in college, but then realized I didn't want to stay in school that long. So so I went into engineering instead. It was something I figured out that I could do. As I tell people, learning how to do THACO is how I learned how to do word problems to become an engineer. No, and so it had been almost, well, since 92, 93-ish, all the way up to 2016, so almost 15 years since I really put pen to paper and wrote creatively again. And literally the long version of Gavin's backstory was written probably in about 6 or 7 hours of I couldn't stop it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. Once it started rolling, I couldn't
momentum. Yeah.
And after that, I mean, I've got about 3 other characters that are almost as that developed that I play in other games now. But Gavin was the first one, and I mean, I can remember writing Gavin and writing the long version of Gavin. It was a tears on the page thing as I was writing it out. Just not even so much because it was Gavin's story, but because I was creating again. And I will say this: it's weird. Creation is painful, but it's a good kind of pain. It's you touch those emotions that you kind of usually don't like to touch. You have it's like, I think it's almost like when you were like a loose tooth. You know if you start playing with it, you're never gonna stop, and it's gonna cause you lots of pain, but it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely, because you get really good moments. And thank you to Darlist Dryads for following. Welcome to the adventure, my friend. You're a gentleman and a scholar. And I also didn't read out Zlion and Yakuza Dave earlier on. Thank you, guys. Yeah, back up your writing as well. I've said I've got an inspiration. First purchase inspired me to draw bearded vultures, and now it's inspiring more hearts. Remember, to be fair, we torture Will's imagination constantly here on with. Yeah, that's true. Random elements definitely help keep me on my toes. Peach snaps would be good. Yeah. Someone asked a question about homebrew rules, thoughts. Big fan. I like homebrew rules. I like to use them and let them influence the story, as long as they're not like too ridiculous and stuff, you know. Yeah, as long as they're kind of like balanced. I mean, I homebrew a bunch of the rules. I think most DMs end up having a bunch of kind of rules that I guess, you know, like aren't necessarily in the raw rules. As we were doing that quiz earlier, we discovered that a bunch of us actually don't use rules the way that they are written or meant to be interpreted, but interpret them in different ways. So, sounds like beer. But yeah, definitely. When it comes to player characters, I'm a bit more cautious about it. If it's like a new player joining a game, it's like, I want to play this crazy character, I'm probably going to lean towards the no side. Whereas if it's someone that I've played it for a long time and kind of, you know, like you trust them as a role player and they're more likely doing it just for the role play reason rather than for like the statistical benefit or something, then usually I'm pretty easy peasy. What about you, Tallsquall? How do you feel about homebrew characters?
I think, like you said, I mean, Lord knows I've homebrewed so many monsters just because I'm like, well, I like what this guy can do and what that guy can do. So, you know, like in my campaign, I had a lot of homebrew monsters. I actually, you know, it depends on what it is. In one of my games, I do play a Blood Hunter, which is Matt Mercer's class that he came up with
that's good.
as a homebrew out there on DM Guide, Guild, whatever. And I love it. I mean, so I think when they're balanced, they can be good. But like you say, if it's something where it's just, well, I want to be have full wizard powers and full fighter powers, and give me all the paladin smites as well. Oh, by the way, I'm level 2. It's just kind of like, okay, go play WoW or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Go play Destiny, and but if you're, if you're doing it for story, I mean, a lot of people can easily look at Gavin and say he's overpowered. I mean, he's got, these great class benefits from being a death cleric, and then, all the fun stuff from being a paladin as well. But, it's, I mean, Will and I blended that together because it's Gavin's story, not because it's he's going to be the master of life and death,
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. I think the roleplay always comes first to me, but usually players tend to do it because they want to access a new part of their imagination, or I haven't done this before, this would be fun, What is a module you want to see brought into 5e, and why is it Tomb of Horrors? Nope. I think Tomb of Horrors has got its place. Nah, I'm good. I want more player content for D&D, but I do love Tomb of Horrors. But yes, let's see what we got here. So yeah, actually, Rio here says, I consider homebrew fixing the rules. I agree. Can breaking rules be a rule in of itself? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, you play the game that you find most fun, and if the most fun that you can possibly have is following every rule of the D&D Player's Handbook and Monster Manual Dungeon Master Guide to the rule is the way that you have the most fun and your group has the most fun, then do it that way. If, however, you don't like certain bits about it and you want to fix them and tweak them, and that's the most fun you can have, then do that. And people come down on either side of the fence on that one. But whatever you do, don't sit on the fence. And if you have a homebrew rule and you decide upon it, at least stay consistent with the rule within that session. At least you can always revisit something if you're like, actually, last session when you did that thing, that was really ridiculous. Actually, we this can't be a constant thing. But as long as you within the session remain consistent, I think it's all about balance. Actually. When Tomb of Horrors came out originally, my DM back then took great joy in torturing all 5 of us for a couple of months of it. Oh man, a couple of months, that's rough. I like one-shot sessions of meat grinders like that. I'm much more about the collaborative storytelling and stuff overall. So but Tomb of Horrors is good. I don't think it will come back to 5e, but you never know, because they always end up reprinting these things. Like Curse of Strahd is Ravenloft again. You never know. You never know. But yeah. Just reeling after that one. It was a lot of fun. And again, thanks to the Being for subscribing and to Corrective for donating during that session. I appreciate that, my friends.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, what is the actual? What's the brooch?
Oh yeah, the brooch hasn't come up too much. Yeah, but I think it will play a part in the later sessions. I actually want to weave it into something. So, if you don't mind me being a little bit mysterious about it.
No, that's fine. And actually, I intentionally didn't look it up because the way you were being mysterious, I thought that it'd be interesting, and especially now how it's now tied to part of this story. I'd love for it to be something unique and cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think D&D is good for the mind, definitely, 100%, and it, good for being with friends and stuff like that. First time I thought about it. Yeah, there you go. When is Beth going to DM? I have no fucking clue when Beth's going to do anything, so I'd have to ask her. I don't think she likes DMing that much. I mean, we could probably convince her to do it at some point, right? But I know actually, other than I've got a bunch of campaigns which I am currently DMing on the show, but other than that, all of the others are going to be, and/or currently will be run by females. Ooh, grills, women. Oh my god, crazy, right? So yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. I do run a bunch of them, so I think there's like 2 or 3 of them. But that's gonna be fun. Do you rotate the DM chair? I don't usually. In terms of the same campaign, we definitely do on the stream. So like I might run this campaign, and then Josh, previously one of the players in this game, was DMing the campaign before this. But yeah, we switch DMs all the time, so I'm in a player seat a bunch of the time as well, which is nice because if I was DMing all the time, I would probably go insane. Are you saying that women can DM too? Mind blown. I know, guys. Some of you don't believe it, but there you go. Constant retooling and reimagining of films. I was a bit skeptical about the re-release of Curse of Strahd. And so was I, actually. It turned out to actually be a quality product, I think. But yeah, I always get a bit nervous when they like, oh, we're gonna do this again. It's like, okay. Yeah. Let me do this. Yeah. Cool. That's how my friends do it too. Each campaign has the same DM for consistency. Me too. Oh, good question. What, Truth Bomb by William? Go insane? You mean even more insane?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost it somewhere along the road, guys. Somewhere along this whole journey. I realized I'm actually coming up on like 1.5 years of streaming, which probably means half a year of being full time, which is scary, exciting. What were you doing at Game? Go ahead.
Well, I'll say this again. It's one of the things that I think does make your channel unique, Will, is the fact that you do take this as a job. I mean, even we didn't fill the 6 hours, so you're finishing out your workday.
Right.
That's what makes your channel, the success that it is.
Thanks.
That you keep regular office hours, you treat it like a job, even if it's just like my job. Some days I work on spreadsheets, sometimes I'm out doing projects. If you're writing campaigns, you're into that world and seeing it. And so I think that's why this will continue to be a success and become even more of a success, because you're not treating it as, oh, I don't really have a job, I'm just kind of I stream every once in a while or when I feel like it. It's no, your streaming is your job, and I think that's the secret to your success on this. I think it's the secret, from the old guy in the audience, back in my day, it is. I mean, that's for anything, any career is, you do it even when you might not want to.
You're right, yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I do try and work as hard as I can on this, because it's it is work, but it's also the kind of passion of mine. And did he say it will continue? Reminds me of people creating fancy soap opera on the fly. Yeah, it kind of is, I suppose, isn't it? It is kind of creating like a TV live, which is kind of weird. But yeah. You're an old mate, trust me. Oh man. There's a question from PFAS. What are we doing at Game Fest? So, Games Fest is an event happening on October 22nd in the UK, near London, in a town near London called Tring. And it's a nerd event, role-playing, as well as if you're interested in like wargaming, stuff like that. We are going there. We're meeting up with everyone. Here's the link for all the information. On Games Fest, we're meeting up with everyone there, and we are playing games of D&D, kind of open games of D&D, as well as Open Legend, and we are going to be playing with you guys and streaming at the same time. So we're actually going to stream for 12 hours, I think. So we get there in the morning, start streaming, play different games, and then after that, we go out to the pub and drink. So that's the plan. So if you're in the UK around October, consider going down to Game Fest. It's like £3 for a ticket or something ridiculous. So it's super cheap, and it's going to be a lot of fun if you want to come meet us. I don't imagine why you'd want to. We're scary, weird people, but maybe you are too, who knows. So yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
You know, one thing I think is worth mentioning, you know, just how D&D can be anything.
Yeah.
What I think I rolled 1 die. We even did full combat without rolling, but we all lived it, you know, the combat.
Yeah,
so
definitely, yeah.
Don't, you know, that's the other big liberty that as DMs or as you're in games you can take. You know, don't feel as though you necessarily have to roll every single swing of every single combat necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I wanted to do that in a kind of narrative way as well, because I felt like it would kind of bog us down a bit if we ended up fighting like an actual scene between 40 people. It would probably kind of lose that cinematic momentum that we had going, yeah. Let's see, when does it start, when does it end? Yeah, I think at like 10 a.m. start, I think, and then finish probably like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. kind of time, evening time. But I mean, we'll be drinking, like we'll be out until probably quite late. So I think, yeah, I think as well, I think the UK like Encounter team will probably be staying in a hotel so that we can drink, and or I'll just take a plane back. So who knows? Is Sid? Sid is not going to be here for Game Fest. No, she is here. I think she leaves on the 17th of October, so she'll just miss it. So sorry guys, but she has like school and stuff like that. However, Sid will be here in January for like 6 months, so I'm sure we'll do something meet-up wise. Tallsquall's become my D&D Yoda. I love it.
Oh, hey, Dustin, how are you doing, man?
It's awesome.
I did. I really did. I hooked him. He
nice.
hadn't played D&D before, and I was telling him about Critical Role and made him watch a couple episodes, and then now have him hooked into your channel, man. So
awesome. Hey, Dustin.
So were you able to check the broadcast, Dustin?
Oh yeah.
It got a little choky there.
Yeah.
He's my voice coach.
Oh, nice.
Well, not really. He's a voice actor, announcer, all kinds.
Oh wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Just lurking in the shadows, he says. Nice. Thanks to Robots for host. What's up, Tom? How's it going, man? Yeah, £3 for a ticket, $1,000 to fly over the weekend. Yeah, a return. Trust me, I know the ticket to England and America. Return journey better than most, and yeah, it is not cheap to fly over here, or vice versa. It's actually much cheaper to fly from the UK to the US rather than the US to UK, because fucking taxes. So we get wrecked. You guys coming to the UK is easier. Well, I did promise you a pint, so I'll have to at least stay around for that long. That sounds good. We'll get a drink. I like it. We'll definitely get a drink. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about D&D, hit us up with a question. We'll do our best to answer them. And I've been here for about 30 minutes so far, but I'll go back and watch earlier. I was out of town and got back later than planned. No worries, man. If you guys are new to the stream, consider hitting that follow button and join us. We're here 5 nights a week, 10 shows a week, 150 hours plus every month of D&D. And me, Tallsquall, Mike, and Josh usually are here on a Monday playing the Samurai Sigil. So, yeah, what's up, anyways? How's it going, man? Hey, if you missed any of it as well, hit that YouTube up. Hit it up.
Yep. Hey, Pandas, how you doing, man?
What's up, Gareth? Let me get a link to get back on D&D World. I'm seeing that 5th edition is really good. I quit on version 1 from the boredom tediousness of it. Gotcha. Yeah, 5th edition, if you're looking to get into it, I'd suggest the starter set would be a good place to start, as the name might suggest. And thank you to Dustin for following. Welcome, my friendly adventurer. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Rio Host. Writing in general can be very cathartic, even if you don't share it at all. You don't have to put content out in the world, you know. You can just write and it can be good for you, you know. Little Black Avar says, is it tricky to return to a much-loved character and rehash them? Yeah. We had a thing recently where, this is in our private game, we had played for a 2-year campaign. And then we took a year's break from it, and then we were like, oh my god, like, we need this fixed, we need to get back to it, kind of thing. In our roll-off game, this Game of Thrones game that we've been playing, and it was like our favorite campaign ever, of like our favorite stories, and everyone had such a great kick out of it, myself included as a DM. And we had this kind of year's break from it, year gap, and coming back to it is really nerve-wracking for me, because I had to play a lot of these NPCs who had, you know, I hadn't played in a very long time, and who were like the favorites of my players, you know. And I felt a lot of pressure to kind of bring them back again. The way I managed to do it is we had the story move on a long time in the game story as well as in real life, to kind of reflect that these people had changed. And so it was very interesting to do so. It wasn't like the easiest thing to do. It felt very good to kind of do it, to come back to a game which you kind of loved. But at the same time, you know, there was something about it perhaps that wasn't quite as, I don't know, quite as real as it was before in some way, you know? I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but it's like your favorite series coming back, but it's slightly different, and it doesn't quite have that same magic element. We tried to capture some of it, and I think we did, but yeah, definitely hard to come back. Have you had an experience of that, Tallsquall?
I'm sorry, I had 2 different chat things I was trying to answer at the same time.
No worries. You got to keep the Live Jasmine viewers happy. But yeah, no. Coming back to an old favorite character, is it tricky to return to a very much loved character and rehash them? Was the question.
Well, I can tell you, you know, like I said, I've only been back at it for about 6 months, but it's interesting. Gavin was a little bit like that, where I was a bit scared with you know, even bringing him out sort of to play with. I mean, he almost was my you know, kind of my boxed set you know, toy, you know, that I was going to leave in the box and leave on the shelf. And you know, for the one shot, I was kind of like, oh well, this is easy, you know, because one shot doesn't really count, you know. And then you know, when you asked me to come back, I was kind of like, well, but what if, you know, what if things don't go the way that I want them to go? Or, you know, I was kind of scared about it. And but I mean, certainly, like, after today, it's so much better than anything I could have come up with on my own. And there's that, I guess, you know, for both players and DMs, there's that trust piece that together we're going to write a better story than what any of us could do on our own.
Yeah.
Just got to trust that 2 minds are better than one, or 2 visions are better than one, and that, you know, you were going to help me take Gavin to a whole different place than I would have been able to.
Yeah. And similarly, I couldn't have taken you there without, you know, Gavin, you being a part of that as well. And that's the thing as well. None of us can ever come up with something on our own which is as powerful as 2 or several people, you know, a group of people collaboratively creating. And it's the same with like musicians as well. Like generally, like the greatest musicians and bands are like, you know, people who come together and create stuff together. So yeah, I think along those lines. We had some questions. Any word on when we all might return to the Numenera campaign? I believe the DM was going back to school. Yeah, Myfa. Mitch is back at law school for his 2nd year, which is obviously much more intensive. However, I did hear from Mitch that he wants to come back in summer of 2017, which is obviously a fair time away. But again, that will be like returning to our favorite campaign, and that will be interesting to come back to that. But yeah, it looks like estimated time of arrival of Numenera Season 3 of Enter the Ninth World will be in that time, around next summer. So that's when it'll be free. That's when he wants to do something. So yeah, hopefully that will get to happen. When is it time to end the campaign? I think when it feels right, when you've told the story, basically. Like today, like we would have finished at in 10 minutes time and gone for an extra like hour, but the time was right to finish that story like an hour before like our like due time to finish, our due date. So yeah, I think when it feels right, when you've told a story that you want to tell and your players are ready, because usually it feels like there's a point where the players feel ready to end their campaign. I've always felt like, you know, I don't know about you, Tallsquall, if you feel like, you know, it's kind of come to like the most epic moments and you know it's the time to like finish something, you know. There's something quite powerful in that, I think.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, today was the perfect example of that. You know, like you said, I mean, I think we both probably looked at the clock and were like, okay, we've got an hour to fill, but this story is done.
Yeah.
And you know, and so we did this for a little while or whatever. I mean, but I guess as storytellers, you kind of know, and again, you kind of have to trust. Also, again, it could be sad that, you know, everyone, you know, like a good book.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're at the end of the book, good book, and you cry because it's just that there's no more of their story. I mean, you know, my big one like that was the Harry Potter books. You know, it was, you know, I just kind of wanted to know more about those characters, but that story was done. You know.
Yeah.
Of course, now it's not done and it's happening. There's more.
It's happening again.
It's happening again.
No.
But you know, I mean, I can remember there was other books like that. I mean, heck, I can even remember back the Dragonlance books, way back.
Yeah.
I wrote those. You know, I can remember that little final send off with Hasselhoff Burhoof, you know, going on his way, and I mean, I was a mess. I remember just being a mess because it, you know, saying goodbye to those characters. But
yeah,
you know. So
at some point you have to,
the same way. Treat it like a story. You know, they don't have to fight until they die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all good stories do have an ending, you know. So there's always it needs to, you know, like for the health of the story, I think, and for the characters as well. Tallsquall, I cried so hard. Finally, there's more of them, but I agree, it felt right. Yeah. Tales of Little Tori. Okay, I haven't heard that one. But yeah, leave them wanting more is something that I've always tried to do with my campaigns. Good night, Gareth. Thanks, kind of on my friend. But yeah, leave them with wanting more is something that I tried to do. Like that campaign I was talking about. We kind of ended at a good moment, and then every week it'd be like, let's do more, let's do more, let's do more. I'm like, no, I finished the story where I wanted to finish the story, and it took me a year of them trying to convince me that there was more story to these characters to tell, because I feel like sometimes you have told a character's story, and sometimes it feels like unlikely that a character would keep on having stories on stories and stories, you know. And for some characters, you know, they only have the one story for me that I need to tell. I feel like I need to tell as a dungeon master or as a player, you know, because sometimes DM would be like, oh, you're going to be back the same character again to this next season of shows or next campaign or whatever. And I'm thinking, you know, actually I have told that story for my player, for my character rather, and so I'm not going to bring him back because it doesn't need to be done, you know? And that's a very difficult thing to do, especially of like very well loved characters, you know, like is it the right time for them to come back? Do you ever need to come back? Even a never-ending story had an end. You're right, Mikuru. So, yeah, they can now be a means to other stories. Exactly.
I mean, I think the other piece of that, there's always that, I think, players' fear of, are they ever going to have a character as special to them, because every one of your characters becomes special to you as the last one.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to breadcrumb and trickle along and just, there's got to be one more adventure, one more story.
Yeah.
And you actually making their story and the character, you're going to end up getting sick of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trust yourself that you're going to create something new and different. I mean, that you're going to enjoy, that you've got more than one story in you as well.
Exactly. That's a very good point, actually. And there gets to that point where it's like season 25 of those, like your favorite shows, where the characters have basically just become caricatures of themselves. They stop being like real characters, and they become fit into the mold of, what does this character do? Oh, he does all of these things, and he is this, and progression begins to kind of stop, because in real life, people do stop kind of like progressing as people. That kind of makes sense. You get to a point in your life where you've kind of like figured out what's going on in your life, and settle down, and you know who you are and everything like that. All of these questions that we tend to answer for our characters in stories, become answered, and then you've got nothing left to go. So I think, Tallsquall's perfectly right. You do have more stories within you to tell, and sometimes you just need a different perspective to tell them from, and that might be a different character. Are our campaigns more plot or character driven? That's a tough one. I'd say predominantly character driven, but it does depend. Some of them are just some of them end up being more plot driven, but I try and make them as much character driven as possible, because I think plot driven stories are more kind of like the way that Lord of the Rings was written, which isn't necessarily about the characters as such. I mean, it does involve them, but it definitely is about the kind of the things which happen in the story. Whereas certainly this story tonight, and I'd like to think most of them that I tell are about the people in the stories and what happens to them. So yeah, what about you, Tallsquall?
Oh yeah, I mean, it just it gets interesting with having those. I'm sort of answering two questions at once. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to have the characters there to make the plot. I mean, that's kind of one of the, you need to have some idea of the story you're telling, but also don't be afraid to let the characters and the characters' motivations necessarily, to drive it somewhere else.
Right, yeah.
Because, again, you never know what kind of great thing's going to come out of that. I mean, when you're writing a novel, that's, again, the great thing about D&D. If you're writing a TV show or a novel or anything, people are expecting, there's a certain expectation of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
In D&D, it's the only medium where what's going to happen is what the dice tell you what happens, or potentially what the dice tell you what happens. There's no guarantees in D&D. Even to the point where there's no guarantees that, Sam and Frodo just don't decide to go, smoke weed and have 11sies and not go carry a ring somewhere. Throw the ring in the well. That can happen, and you can have just as much good time talking about Sam and Frodo's pub crawl as can necessarily about them going and trekking for months and months, schlepping across Middle Earth. So don't be afraid to tell the story of the pub crawl.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the pub crawl, guys. And not every story has to be super serious and super kind of like high stakes all the time, and no book is written that way. No book has the level of intensity that we saw in today's. That would be like a chapter, and and the rest of it would be filled out with other kind of other parts of the book, and the story. The same way that Samurai Sigil is going to have that as well. Not every episode is going to be fucking, you're about to cry on the edge of your seat. Some of it's going to be kind of gritty and dark, and hopefully overall you build a good story from that. I think, yeah, in its equal parts. Yeah, character development is an interesting one. Like the impulse party at the tavern the other night. All caps. Exactly, yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid of Frodo's pub crawl. Merry and Pippin are better at it, it's true, but what are you gonna do, But yeah, I think our time is up here today, unfortunately. It is midnight over here, so I need to go get some food and, chill out for a bit. So thank you guys again. Tim would watch a trilogy about Hobbit Bender indeed. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along and hanging out with us today. I do appreciate you guys chilling with us and enjoying our story tonight. Again, thank you to The Being for subscribing and to Correctu for donating. Everybody has followed as well. If you guys haven't followed yet, hit that follow button and join us. We do appreciate every single one of you, and we'll be back tomorrow for the Cirque du Soleil one-shot at 1 PM Eastern Time, 6 PM if you're in the UK, and followed by the finale of The Lost Mine of Phandelver at 4 PM Eastern, which is 9 PM UK time. So thank you guys again. Very, very kind words from you all. I appreciate it very much. And time is up, I'm afraid. Yeah. We could go direct you guys to the YouTube. So if you missed any videos, missed the last episode of the Samurai Sigil, go check it out. And we will thank to Faithful Encounters for following. You're a gentleman and a scholar. So, yeah, on that bombshell, anything you want to say, Tallsquall, hooks, plugs, stuff like that, where people can follow you?
Basically, you'll find me here, and on Twitter at Tallsquall is me. And just as Will said, guys, thank you for everything y'all were putting in chat. It was great to have the feedback as we were doing it. When you sort of throw yourself out emotionally, sometimes you don't know whether it's resonating or it's not. So it was certainly great to have you guys let us know that you liked it and enjoyed it. And we'll hopefully have some fun, some fun ones too. I'm sure we will. They won't all be quite this emotionally fun. I'm glad I was able to experience it. Will, fantastic. I mean, it was an incredible thing to be a part of. And thank you, chat, because it was great to have you guys here along for the ride.
Indeed it was, and thank you as well, Tallsquall, for coming along and telling such a great story with me today. So yes, we'll be back tomorrow, guys, same time, 1 PM Eastern, then 4 PM for the second show. Don't miss it. I've been Will, he's been Tallsquall, this has been Encounter Roleplay, and we'll see you guys very soon. But until then, try not to roll too many nat ones, because we want to be here laughing when you do, or crying, as the case may be. Good night, guys.